Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu had a meeting today, and basically they had a press conference before they actually had their meeting, which was pretty much a love fest between the two of them. Now, just so that you know, Melania Trump, for the first time, appeared at the White House, and that was because Sarah Netanyahu came in with her husband. So this was really a love fest. The Netanyahus were welcomed at the official entrance of the White House, which is used primarily when there is an actual state function, which includes a state dinner. But all the pomp and circumstance were given to Netanyahu and his wife on this, which is considered a normal meeting, not an extraordinary or state function type meeting, but a normal meeting between foreign leaders and the President of the United States. Now, I want to show you all the players as they come into the meeting. You're going to see Melania Trump and Sarah Netanyahu come in together. You'll see Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump, obviously husband and wife, coming together. And then you're going to see Rance Priebus come in from the right side of the screen. And then you're going to see the two white supremacists, Steve Bannon and Stephen Miller, come in and sit down. Now, obviously, the last two are part of the administration. And if you didn't or aren't aware of it, the Breitbart is an basically anti-black, anti-Islamic, anti-Jewish type publication, website, blog, etc. So how Bannon and Miller are balancing their hate for the Jews, I guess, is because they hate the Islamic or Muslim people even more. So, and then it's always been the case where people put up false faces from where they actually are coming from, what their actual viewpoints are. Anyway, let me show you the procession as it comes in. And obviously I'll point out the people as they come in, and then I'll advance it to the point where they first start speaking. Okay, here comes Sarah Netanyahu and Melania Trump. Here comes Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner. Now, I don't know who that guy is on the right shaking hands. I think he's that's Kelly, I believe. Now, here comes Rance Priebus, Steve Bannon, racist in chief, and right next to him, his assistant, Stephen Miller, racist in chief, awaiting higher position if possible. Now, shortly, I'm going to, actually, I don't think I'm going to have to. The Prime Minister and the President are going to be coming in through the doors right about now. Whoop, give it about 30 seconds. There was Sean Spicer, and here they come.
Because this is giving Netanyahu the kind of platform that he's not had under Barack Obama.
Meanwhile, our CIA directors meeting quietly on the West Bank, not exactly the equal treatment.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Today I have the honor of welcoming my friend, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, to the White House. With this visit, the United States again reaffirms our unbreakable bond with our cherished ally, Israel.
We got a lot of unbreakable bonds. We got an unbreakable bond with the United Kingdom. We got an unbreakable bond with Canada. And now we got another unbreakable bond. So I guess pretty much all of our bonds are unbreakable. Just had to throw that one in there.
The partnership between our two countries, built on our shared values, has advanced the cause of human freedom, dignity, and peace. These are the building blocks of democracy. The State of Israel is a symbol to the world of resilience in the face of oppression.
Now, I could say black people are a symbol of the world to us being able to survive oppression and apartheid and everything else. But, you know, that's just me.
I think of no other state that's gone through what they've gone, and of survival in the face of genocide.
I can genocide as far as black people being killed, and you talk about the Holocaust. Equal, if not greater numbers of black people were killed in Africa by the German state during World War II, as were the Holocaust victims that were killed in the Nazi concentration camps, etc. But, you know, that's just me saying that. I invite you to go look it up.
We will never forget what the Jewish people have endured. Your perseverance in the face of hostility, your open democracy in the face of violence, and your success in the face of tall odds is truly inspirational. The security challenges faced by Israel are enormous, including the threat of Iran's nuclear ambitions, which I've talked a lot about. One of the worst deals I've ever seen is the Iran deal.
Yeah, that only stopped Iran from obtaining a nuclear weapon within, like, according to even the Israeli people, they would have had one in 4 or 5 months. So that deal, which obviously was signed last year, it only stopped Iran from immediately obtaining a nuclear weapon. So I guess if that's the worst deal that you've seen, I sure as hell would like to know what a better deal would have been, short of basically going to war with Iran.
The administration has already imposed new sanctions on Iran, and I will do more to prevent Iran from ever developing, ever, a nuclear weapon.
That's already in the agreement if you bother to read it.
Our security assistance to Israel is currently at an all-time high, ensuring that Israel has the ability to defend itself from threats, of which there are, unfortunately, many. Both of our countries will continue and grow. We have a long history of cooperation in the fight against terrorism and the fight against those who do not value human life. America and Israel are two nations that cherish the value of all human life. This is one more reason why we reject unfair and one-sided actions against Israel at the United Nations. Just treated Israel, in my opinion, very, very unfairly. Or other international forums, as well as boycotts that target Israel. Our administration is committed to working with Israel and our common allies in the region towards greater security and stability. That includes working toward a peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians. The United States will encourage a peace, and really a great peace deal. We'll be working on it very, very diligently. Very important to me also, something we want to do. But it is the parties themselves who must directly negotiate such an agreement. We'll be beside them. We'll be working with them. As with any successful negotiation, both sides will have to make compromises. You know that, right?
Both sides.
I want the Israeli people to know that the United States stands with Israel in the struggle against terrorism. As you know, Mr. Prime Minister, our two nations will always condemn terrorist acts. Peace requires nations to uphold the dignity of human life and to be a voice for all of those who are endangered and forgotten. Those are the ideals to which we all and will always aspire and commit. This will be the first of many productive meetings, and I again, Mr. Prime Minister, thank you very much for being with us today. Mr. Prime Minister, thank you.
President Trump, thank you for the truly warm hospitality you and Melania have shown me, my wife Sarah, our entire delegation. I deeply value your friendship. To me, to the State of Israel, it was so clearly evident in the words you just spoke. Israel has no better ally than the United States. And I want to assure you, the United States has no better ally than Israel. Our alliance has been remarkably strong. But under your leadership, I'm confident it will get even stronger. I look forward to working with you to dramatically upgrade our alliance in every field, in security, in technology, in cyber and trade, and so many others, and I certainly welcome your forthright call to ensure that Israel is treated fairly in international forums, and that the slander and boycotts of Israel are resisted mightily by the power and moral position of the United States of America. As you have said, our alliance is based on a deep bond of common values and common interests. And increasingly, those values and interests are under attack by one malevolent force: radical Islamic terror. Mr. President, you've shown great clarity and courage in confronting this challenge head on. You call for confronting Iran's terrorist regime, preventing Iran from realizing this terrible deal into a nuclear arsenal. And you have said that the United States is committed to preventing Iran from getting nuclear weapons. You call for the defeat of ISIS. Under your leadership, I believe we can reverse the rising tide of radical Islam. And in this great task, as in so many others, Israel stands with you, and I stand with you. Mr. President, in rolling back militant Islam, we can seize an historic opportunity. Because for the first time in my lifetime, and for the first time in the life of my country, Arab countries in the region do not see Israel as an enemy, but increasingly as an ally. And I believe that under your leadership...
Now that is partially true because the moderate Islamic countries like Saudi Arabia view Iran as a bigger threat to their existence, political systems, etc., than Israel. They basically have formed an, I'll even say, halfway spoken alliance with Israel against Iran. The problem is that when they start talking about no homeland for the Palestinians, there is no way that any Muslim country is going to go for that. So unless there's a two-state solution, your alliance that you have with the moderate Islamic countries is on thin, if not cracking ice.
This change in our region creates an unprecedented opportunity to strengthen security and advance peace. Let us seize this moment together. Let us bolster security. Let us seek new avenues of peace. And let us bring the remarkable alliance between Israel and the United States to even greater heights. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Again, thank you.
All right, now Trump is going to call on right-wing news outlets. He's not going to call on any of the mainstream news outlets to ask any questions. Now, Netanyahu, he's going to call on, obviously, the Israeli news outlets, and honestly, I'm not really familiar with them. I got to assume that they are favorable to his positions. But then again, some of the questions that got asked, they were pretty pointed. But Trump is going straight to the right-wing guys, like the Christian Broadcasting Network, which he had given previous interviews on. Here we go with the questions.
We'll take a couple of questions. David Brody, that's Christian Broadcasting. David?
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Prime Minister. Both of you have criticized the Iran nuclear deal and at times even called for its repeal. I'm wondering if you're concerned at all as it relates to not just the National Security Advisor, Michael Flynn, who is recently no longer here, but also some of those events that have been going on with communication in Russia, if that is going to hamper this deal at all, and whether or not it would keep Iran from becoming a nuclear state. And secondly, on the settlement issue, are you both on the same page? How do you exactly term that as it relates to the settlement issue?
Okay, now real quick, it might have gone under the radar, but even though Trump calls it the worst deal in history, there have been announcements that they are not going to try to get out of the deal. But you didn't hear about that. All you hear about is how terrible the deal is. But you also don't hear about him saying he is going to pull the country out of that deal. And as I stated, an announcement was made that they are not going to pull out of that deal. On the other side, for Netanyahu, his own military says they like the deal. So, and you won't hear a whole lot about the military. And the Israeli military and the U.S. military are, they go together like hand in glove. Each military loves the other one. So you're not going to hear any pushback on the Israeli military.
Michael Flynn, General Flynn, is a wonderful man. I think he's been treated very, very unfairly by the media. As I call it, the fake media in many cases. And I think it's really a sad thing that he was treated so badly. I think in addition to that, from intelligence, papers are being leaked, things are being leaked. It's criminal action, criminal act. And it's been going on for a long time before me. But now it's really going on. And people are trying to cover up for a terrible loss that the Democrats had under Hillary Clinton. I think it's very, very unfair what's happened to General Flynn, the way he was treated, and the documents and papers that were illegally, I stress that, illegally leaked. Very, very unfair. As far as settlements, I'd like to see you hold back on settlements for a little bit. We'll work something out, but I would like to see a deal be made. I think a deal will be made. I know that every president would like to. Most of them have not started till late because they never thought it was possible. And it wasn't possible because they didn't do it. But Bibi and I have known each other a long time. A smart man, great negotiator. And I think we're going to make a deal. It might be a bigger and better deal than people in this room even understand. That's a possibility. So let's see what we do.
That's right.
Now, a couple of things on this one. Number one, it wasn't fake news that called for the resignation or firing of Mr. Flynn. It was the Republicans in Congress, there are quite a few of them. It was also people within his own cabinet, including the son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and Steve Bannon. This guy lied to the American people. He lied to the vice president. He lied to everybody. But apparently Trump wants to blame his demise on quote-unquote fake media. Nah, that's a bunch of bull pucky. Okay, so there's Trump again trying to defend one of his guys where there is absolutely no defense. But I guess we're going to have to get used to that one.
Doesn't sound too optimistic, but this says good negotiator.
That's the
Now, one other thing. You notice that Trump was talking about the two-state solution and stopping settlements coming into or settlements being made in disputed territories, and that he needs to either slow down or stop them temporarily. Netanyahu did not say, yeah, okay. As a matter of fact, he had his head down when those statements were made. So you didn't hear a yay or a nay from him, or even an acknowledgement of what Trump said. Okay, anyway.
of the deal.
I also want to thank Sarah. Could you please stand up? You're so lovely, and you've been so nice to Melania. I appreciate it very much.
That was a little butt smooching.
Thank you. Your turn.
Was it second? Yeah, please, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, in your vision for the new Middle East peace, are you ready to give up of the notion of two-state solution that was adopted by previous administration? And will you be willing to hear different ideas from the Prime Ministers, as some of his partners are asking him to do, for example, annexation of parts of the West Bank and unrestricted settlement constructions? And one more question, are you going to fulfill your promise to move the U.S. Embassy in Israel to Jerusalem, and if so, when? And Mr. Prime Minister, did you come here tonight to tell the President that you're backing off the two-state solution? Thank you.
Okay, real quick, if you don't know the two-state solution versus the one-state solution, the two-state solution is a separate area, geographic area, that is completely under Palestinian control, okay, political, economic, etc. With Israel having, obviously, its own geographic area under its complete control. Now, that makes sense. But obviously there are going to be issues as far as security for Israel. And I got to tell you, I will agree with Netanyahu on part of the answer that he's more than likely going to give. But a one-state solution does not work for Israel if you want to see Israel as it exists today. A one-state solution grants all people living in Israel that are Palestinian, it grants them obviously voting rights, but it vastly expands the amount of territory that Israel would claim as Israel. That also includes all of the people. If they do that, they will lose their political power. There are millions of Palestinians living in those areas, and they are having children left and right. So if not now, soon the power of the Jewish people, the Jewish political parties, will be eroded, and they will basically be overrun in what they consider to be their own country. So the one-state solution absolutely won't work. And that's just it in a nutshell. Here we go.
So I'm looking at two-state and one-state, and I like the one that both parties like.
Now, that's a good political answer.
I'm very happy with the one that both parties like. I can live with either one. I thought for a while the two-state looked like it may be the easier of the two. But honestly, if Bibi and if the Palestinians, if Israel and the Palestinians are happy, I'm happy with the one they like the best. As far as the embassy moving to Jerusalem, I'd love to see that happen. We're looking at it very, very strongly. We're looking at it with great care, believe me, and we'll see what happens, okay?
There is no way they are moving their embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. That would start a major firestorm amongst all of the Islamic countries in the vicinity. Now, the United States, by law, has the ability today to move that embassy, but for the past, I believe it's 16 or more years, might be longer, Congress has voted to push back the movement of that embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And as you notice, Donald Trump, who campaigned about moving that embassy from Tel Aviv to Israel, right then and there, you heard him back up to the point that they are going to, quote unquote, study it. Translation, they are not moving anything for the time being and more than likely for the foreseeable future until the two-state versus one-state solution is actually put into effect.
Thank you. I read yesterday that an American official said that if you ask 5 people what 2 states would look like, you'd get 8 different answers. Well, Mr. President, if you asked 5 Israelis, you'd get 12 different answers. But rather than deal with labels, I want to deal with substance. And it's something I've hoped to do for years in a world that's absolutely fixated on labels and not on substance. So here's the substance. There are 2 prerequisites for peace that I laid out several years ago, and they haven't changed. First, the Palestinians must recognize the Jewish state. They have to stop calling for Israel's destruction. They have to stop educating their people for Israel's destruction.
Now, that one I absolutely got to go along with. You know, the Jews came in there and, you know, you can say they took back their land. You could say they stole their land. You could say a whole lot of things. But the bottom line is they're there. So the call for the destruction of the state of Israel, that's a non-starter. They got to renounce all that. And a bunch of those groups have. All right. The second one, which he's going to enunciate, is more problematic.
Second, in any peace agreement, Israel must retain the overriding security control over the entire area west of the Jordan River, because if we don't, we know what will happen. Because otherwise we'll get another radical Islamic terrorist state in the Palestinian areas, exploding the peace, exploding the Middle East. Now, unfortunately, the Palestinians vehemently reject both prerequisites for peace.
Okay, now that second one is more problematic because the Palestinian people, and more probably rightfully so, would feel that with a military presence on their borders and throughout their country, that they are still in effect being occupied. So some other solution as far as for the security of Israel, its military security, needs to come up with. Now, I don't know if that's a UN peacekeeping force that permanently provides the security on the Palestinian, throughout the Palestinian countries, which might be more acceptable. Again, I don't absolutely know what the solution for the security of the entire region would be, but I could see the Palestinians' point of view, and I could see the Israelis' point of view on that one. That one needs to be worked out. Okay, here we go.
First, they continue to call for Israel's destruction inside their schools, inside their mosques, inside the textbooks. You have to read it to believe it. They even deny, Mr. President, our historical connection to our homeland. And I suppose you have to ask yourself, why are Jews called Jews?
Okay, now he's going to sit there and bullshit everybody as to why are Jews called Jews. Jews are called Jews because of the religion that they practice, okay? That's why Jews are called Jews. If you have a Christian who leaves Catholicism and converts over to Judaism, they are called a Jew. And there are a lot of those, including Donald Trump's own daughter, who did that. She is a Jew because she converted, not because of the area of land that they quote unquote claim is theirs historically. Now, just in case you need a little bit more information, okay, the Jews actually originated out of Iraq. Back then it was known as Mesopotamia, okay? Jews are called Israelites. Why is that? Because the patriarch of the Jews was a Jacob, who was also called Israel, okay? There were 12 tribes or 12 sons of Jacob that made up the 12 tribes of Israel. 10 of the tribes got together and were known as the Northern Kingdom, and 2 of the tribes got together, that is Judah and Benjamin, and when they got together, their area was known as the Southern Kingdom. Now, they all formed one giant one kingdom under King David. He consolidated them because when he came to power, first it was the 2 kingdoms, Benjamin and Judah, that recognized him as king. And then when Saul got killed, he was able to consolidate the other 10 kingdoms into one kingdom of Israel. It stayed that way under his son Solomon, and then after Solomon, it broke up again, and then you had the Northern Kingdom again that had 10 tribes of Israel, and you had the Southern Kingdom that had the 2. Okay, so it wasn't the fact that the Jews all came from the 12 tribes, quote unquote, because Judah, okay, which is where the word Jew came from, was just one of the tribes, okay? One of the sons of Israel. So all these guys are calling themselves Jews. Are they claiming that they all came from the tribe of Judah? I don't think so. Now, the Jews got kicked, well, let me back up. The 10 kingdoms got kicked out of their geographic area somewhere around 700 BCE, okay? And those 10 tribes, basically, you really didn't hear pretty much anything about those 10. But the 2 remaining tribes, Judah and Benjamin, of which was the Southern Kingdom, and Judah was the dominant, I guess, group from that kingdom, they are the ones that you hear about. And the Judeans or Jews are the ones that these guys took the name from. But they're not, quote unquote, all from the area. They're not all from the tribe of Judah. So, quote unquote, they really shouldn't all be called Jews. Now, if they all wanted to call themselves Israelites because they're from the area, that's a whole different story. But anyway, I digress. Let me jump back into this.
Well, the Chinese are called Chinese because they come from China. The Japanese are called Japanese because they come from Japan. Well, Jews are called Jews because they come from Judea. This is our ancestral homeland. Jews are not foreign colonialists in Judea. So unfortunately, the Palestinians not only denied the past, they also poisoned the present.
But the Palestinians lived in the same areas. So the Palestinians, okay, Palestine, that's why they're called Palestinians. They're from Palestine. And Palestine was in Judea. Okay, so they should be Jews as well if you're talking about the geographic area. You got to really listen to these guys, and you got to really delve into history to know what's going on.
They named public squares in honor of mass murderers who murdered Israelis, and I have to say who also murdered Americans. They pay monthly salaries to the families of murderers, like the family of the terrorist who killed Taylor Force, a wonderful young American, a West Point graduate, who was stabbed to death while visiting Israel. So this is the source of the conflict. The persistent Palestinian refusal to recognize a Jewish state in any boundary, this persistent rejectionism, that's the reason we don't have peace. Now that has to change. I want it to change. Not only have I not abandoned these two prerequisites of peace, they become even more important because of the rising tide of fanaticism that has swept the Middle East and has also, unfortunately, infected Palestinian society. So I want this to change. I want those two prerequisites of peace, substance, not labels. I want them reinstated. But if anyone believes that I, as Prime Minister of Israel, responsible for the security of my country, would blindly walk into a Palestinian terrorist state that seeks the destruction of my country, they're gravely mistaken. The two prerequisites of peace, recognition of the Jewish state, and Israel's security needs west of the Jordan, they remain pertinent. We have to look for new ways, new ideas on how to reinstate them and how to move peace forward. And I believe that the great opportunity for peace comes from a regional approach, from involving our newfound Arab partners in the pursuit of a broader peace and peace with the Palestinians. And I greatly look forward to discussing this in detail with you, Mr. President, because I think that if we work together, we have a shot.
And we have been discussing that, and it is something that is very different, hasn't been discussed before, and it's actually a much bigger deal, a much more important deal in a sense. It would take in many, many countries, and it would cover a very large territory. So I didn't know you were going to be mentioning that, but that's now that you did. I think it's a terrific thing, and I think we have some pretty good cooperation from people that in the past would never, ever have even thought about doing this. So we'll see how that works out. Okay?
Yeah, I want to see what this deal is going to be, because anything short of giving the Palestinians their own particular homeland, in my opinion, is not going to fly.
Katie from Town Hall. Where's Katie? Right there. Katie?
Thank you, Mr. President. You said in your earlier remarks that both sides will have to make compromises when it comes to a peace deal. You mentioned a halt on settlements. Can you lay out a few more specific compromises that you have in mind, both for the Israelis and for the Palestinians? And Mr. Prime Minister, what expectations do you have from the new administration about how to either amend the Iran nuclear agreement or how to dismantle it altogether, and how to overall work with the new administration to combat Iran's increased aggression, not only in the last couple of months, but the past couple of years as well?
I got to admit, even though she's a right-winger, she has some pretty good questions.
That's actually an interesting question. I think that the Israelis are going to have to show some flexibility, which is hard. It's hard to do. They're going to have to show the fact that they really want to make a deal. I think our new concept that we've been discussing actually for a while is something that allows them to show more flexibility than they have in the past, because you have a lot bigger canvas to play with. And I think they'll do that. I think they very much would like to make a deal, or I wouldn't be happy, and I wouldn't be here, and I wouldn't be as optimistic as I am. I really think I can tell you from the standpoint of Bibi and from the standpoint of Israel, I really believe they want to make a deal, and they'd like to see the big deal. I think the Palestinians have to get rid of some of that hate that they're taught from a very young age. They're taught tremendous hate. I've seen what they're taught.
See, now that's a bunch of bullshit, because now he's going to claim that all the Palestinians hate Israel, and that is a bunch of crap. So he just basically took sides and just echoed the rhetoric from Benjamin Netanyahu.
And you can talk about flexibility there too, but it starts at a very young age, and it starts in the schoolroom. deal can be made if they're not ready to acknowledge a very, very great and important country. And I think they're going to be willing to do that also. But now I also believe we're going to have, Katie, other players at a very high level. And I think it might make it easier on both the Palestinians and Israel to get something done. Okay? Thank you. Very interesting question. Thank you.
I wish he practiced the same damn thing here in the United States. We have these kids that are taught at a very young age. I'm talking about elementary school, about how to act like a racist against both black people, Hispanic people, and other minorities. Interesting analogy.
You asked about Iran. One thing is preventing Iran from getting nuclear weapons, something that President Trump and I think, are deeply committed to do. And we are obviously going to discuss that. I think beyond that, President Trump has led a very important effort in the past few weeks, just coming into the presidency. He pointed out there are violations, Iranian violations on ballistic missile tests. By the way, these ballistic missiles are inscribed in Hebrew. Israel must be destroyed. The Iranian Foreign Minister Zarif said, well, our ballistic missiles are not intended against any country. No. They write on the missile in Hebrew, Israel must be destroyed. So challenging Iran on its violations of ballistic missiles, imposing sanctions on Hezbollah, preventing them, making them pay for the terrorism that they foment throughout the Middle East and beyond, well beyond. I think that's a change that is clearly evident since President Trump took office.
That's bullshit. Obama was putting the clamps on them as well as far as the missile technology was concerned. But I gotta agree with him on the Iranians writing death to Israel on their missiles. You know, that's a bunch of crap. Shouldn't be done, and nobody should be in a position to accept that kind of rhetoric.
I think it's, let me say this very openly, I think it's long overdue. And I think that if we work together, and not just the United States and Israel, but so many others in the region who see eye to eye on the great magnitude and danger of the Iranian threat, then I think we can roll back Iran's aggression and danger. And that's something that is important for Israel, the Arab states, but I think it's vitally important for America. These guys are developing ICBMs. They're developing, they want to get to a nuclear arsenal, not a bomb, 100 bombs. And they want to have the ability to launch them everywhere on Earth, and including, and especially, eventually, the United States. So this is something that is important for all of us. I welcome the change, and I intend to work with President Trump very closely so that we can thwart this danger.
Great.
Not gonna happen, and to be honest with you, what are you gonna do about North Korea? Because they damn sure are gonna have an ICBM that is nuclear capable a hell of a lot sooner than Iran's gonna have ICBMs that are nuclear capable. So we're talking about going to war against two countries, and at least we not forget, China's backing North Korea. So if we're going to end up going to war with North Korea, either we're going to cut a deal with China to keep them out of it, or things could escalate fairly quickly.
Do you have somebody?
Love?
Mr. President, since your election campaign and even after your victory, we've seen a sharp rise in anti-Semitic incident across the United States. And
I like this guy, but Trump doesn't really answer his question.
I wonder what do you say to those among the Jewish community in the States and in Israel and maybe around the world who believe and feel that your administration is playing with xenophobia and maybe racist tones? And Mr. Prime Minister, do you agree to what the President just said about the need for Israel to restrain and to stop settlement activity in the West Bank? And a quick follow-up on my friend's questions. Simple question, do you back off from your vision to the end of the conflict of two-state solution as you lay out in Bar Ilan speech, or you still support it? Thanks.
This guy must have done his research and found out about Steve Bannon and Breitbart.
Well, I just want to say that we are, very honored by the victory that we had, 306 electoral college votes. We were not supposed to crack 220. You know that, right? There was no way to 221, but then they said there's no way to 270.
The self-aggrandizement that this guy gives himself all the time is it's like sickening, to be honest with you.
And there's tremendous enthusiasm out there. I will say that we are going to have peace in this country. We are going to stop crime in this country. We are going to do everything within our power to stop long simmering racism and every other thing that's going on, because a lot of bad things have been taking place over a long period of time. I think.
Hey, is racism different than anti-Semitism? Because the guy was asking questions about anti-Semitism, and you have yet to mention it.
One of the reasons I won the election is we have a very, very divided nation. Very divided. And hopefully I'll be able to do something about that. And it was something that was very important to me. As far as people, Jewish people, so many friends, a daughter who happens to be here right now, a son-in-law, and 3 beautiful grandchildren. I think that you're going to see a lot different United States of America over the next 3, 4, or 8 years. I think a lot of good things are happening, and you're going to see a lot of love. You're going to see a lot of love. Okay?
Not thus far. The uptick on hate crimes against black people, Jewish people, Islamic people is severely on the rise, particularly after you won the election. So unless you got some master plan that's going to make some see changes in people's thoughts, feelings, etc., and the systems that we have to live and operate under, things are only going to get worse, not better.
Thank you.
I believe that the issue of the settlements is not the core of the conflict, nor does it really drive the conflict. I think it's an issue. It has to be resolved in the context of peace negotiations. And I think we also are going to speak about it, President Trump and I, so we can arrive at an understanding, so we don't keep on bumping into each other all the time on this issue, and we're going to discuss this.
They are definitely not on the same page as far as the settlements are concerned.
On the question you said, you just came back with your question to the problem that I said. It's the label. What does Abu Mazen mean by 2 states? Okay? What does he mean? A state that doesn't recognize the Jewish state? A state that basically is open for attack against Israel? What are we talking about? Are we talking about Costa Rica, or are we talking about another Iran? So obviously it means different things. I told you what are the conditions that I believe are necessary for an agreement. It's the recognition of the Jewish state, and it's Israel's security control of the entire area. Otherwise, we're just fantasizing. Otherwise, we'll get another failed state, another terrorist Islamist dictatorship that will not work for peace, but work to destroy us, but also destroy any hope for a peaceful future for our people. So I've been very clear about those conditions, and they haven't changed. I haven't changed. If you read what I said 8 years ago, it's exactly that. And I repeated that again and again and again. If you want to deal with labels, deal with labels. I'll deal with substance. And finally, if I can respond to something that I know from personal experience. I've known President Trump for many years. And to allude to him, or to his people, his team, some of whom I've known for many years too. Can I reveal, Jared, how long we've known you? Well, he was never small. He was always big. He was always tall. But I've known the president, and I've known his family and his team for a long time. And there is no greater supporter of the Jewish people and the Jewish state than President Donald Trump. I think we should put that to rest.
I wonder how long he's known Steve Bannon and Steve Miller. And I wonder what his personal opinion is on how big a supporter they are of the Jewish people, not the Jewish state, because they probably love the Jews all being over in Israel and would probably want to ship the ones that are here over there. But I'm just talking about the Jewish people that practice the Jewish faith in this country.
Thank you very much. Very nice. I appreciate that very much.
Mr. President, are you going to answer any questions about your associate contacts with the Russians during the campaign?
Okay, and that was the end of the news conference. And I got to give it to Trump. That's 2 or 3 times in a row where he's given like basically either press conferences or photo ops. After he's gotten done, he's ignored all the questions as he walks away because the questions basically are biting questions from mainstream media. So anyway, that's the love fest between him and Benjamin Netanyahu today.